Welcome to Raising Awe Seekers, how the science of wonder can help our kids thrive. I'm your host, Deborah Farmer Chris. So yesterday I struggled. It was a cold Monday in February, home with a kid who has been sick with the flu for a week, and just all of this stuff going on out there. But wonder is in the ordinary even on crappy days. And hey, I've made this personal commitment to finding one small moment of awe each day this year. And I may be just a wee bit compulsive when I want to be, and sometimes when I don't want to be. So as I drove to pick up my non-sick child from school, I began to mentally tick through 7 sources of wonder because they're forever etched in my brain. They're also the 7 chapters of my forthcoming book. So I've been steeped in this research on how humans find awe for a few years now. And because I've lived with this framework for so long, this has become a mental model for trying to steal a moment of wow, even on cold, hard days. So today I thought I would just really briefly share these 7 sources of awe and wonder that cross-culturally, across the globe, people tend to find these moments of wow or goosebumps, or their eyes filling with tears, or these just moments of ah when they encounter these things. So these are the Cliff Notes. I'm not sure if anybody under the age of 30 knows that phrase anymore, but here we go. The first one is nature, and that probably seems like the most obvious source of awe. When you see a sunset, a beautiful fluffy snowflake, meteor showers, ocean waves, bird songs, flowers growing through a sidewalk crack. So if you need a reset, going outside and listening, looking, breathing, these are things that have been shown to really boost this feeling, this emotion of awe. Number 2 is music. So as I wrote about in my newsletter a couple of weeks ago, song is our first language. Kids, babies respond to the cooing, the sing-song, the lullabies. In a way, they respond very differently to just kind of straight speech like I'm doing right now. We know that sounds from childhood can transport us back in time. We know that song can give us goosebumps we don't know why, that music has this mysterious power to entrance, to energize, and even to heal us. So that's music. The third source of awe and wonder is art. And this is a fairly broad category that includes making art, seeing art, experiencing the wonders of design. Imagine walking to a beautiful courtyard or a cathedral or a space that just you look up and you feel that sense of wow. It's when you see a painting and you're moved in a way you can't articulate, and that might be a very different painting for you than it is for your child or for your partner, but it is finding this wonder in human creation in art. So those 3, music, art, nature, I think if you ask people where do you find awe, those kind of feel like the most obvious, right? These almost mysterious, wondrous sources of beauty. Number 4, the research on this is really fascinating, and that's big questions, big ideas. So think of the last time you read a book or listened to a podcast or learned something new that just made you sit up and say, wow. The other day I was reading a book to my son, and it mentioned that a man who was blind had taught himself echolocation, and my son literally bolted up in bed and said, what? That's not possible. And so we began to dive deeper into this story, and there's some great podcasts on it, about this human's ability to use echolocation to be able to see the world in a different way. So that's a wow moment of a big question. And it turns out that pondering big questions and engaging with others who are doing the same can put us in touch with meaning and mystery. And in our soundbite society where it's knee-jerk reactions and it doesn't seem to be going very deep, these big questions are kind of a rich source of tapping into the emotion of awe. Number 5 is a phrase called collective effervescence, but in my book I call it the wonder of belonging. Collective effervescence is a term that describes the feeling of being part of a group, but a group that is working toward a common, meaningful purpose. So think about being part of a team sport and getting in the flow such that you kind of know where the person is, or being part of a choral ensemble, or being part of a group that is engaged in service together, and that feeling that comes from being kind of in harmony with others towards something good. This is really powerful for our kids who really crave that group experience. And engaging with community in this way really reminds us that we're not alone. And that's a really necessary, empowering feeling. Because as I talked about the last 2 weeks, hopelessness often comes from a sense that we are alone in our worries, and that hopefulness can come with the sense of there are small things that we can do collectively to improve this world. So that takes us to 5. Number 6 is the circle of life, experiences with life and death. Birth and death, beginnings and endings, saying hello, whispering goodbye. This was a really difficult, meaty, beautiful chapter to write, to talk about how we can help our children understand the life cycle. So, the delight in seeing a tiny baby's fingers, but also that grief that is born of love when someone we love dies. Intergenerational relationships, and this includes learning about our ancestors who we never met. These can shape us, can tap us into wisdom, and remind us that we're one small piece in this long arc of humanity, and that is a humbling and wondrous feeling. Okay, so that takes us to 6. So we have music, art, nature, big questions, belonging or collective effervescence, this life cycle. But the final one, what I love, 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 is that the most common source of awe, according to research out of the Greater Good Science Center and Dr. Keltner at UC Berkeley, is noticing human goodness. In particular, my book focuses on the wonder of human kindness. So it turns out that witnessing people being kind and courageous and doing brave, compassionate things, we are moved by that. We are touched by that. And that can give us the same feelings of standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon. And this is really key to being that kind of spy for hope that I talked about last week with our kids, to be able to notice these small moments of human goodness in our homes and neighborhood and communities and world, and to share that so that they can counterbalance what they're seeing in the media with these reminders that people are, so many of us, just so good at heart. So I'm going to go back to my Monday story when I was looking for my tiny moment of awe and really struggling. So I'm driving to get my kid, and my head is stuck fully in blog gear, and I begin to run through this list of 7. And I'm consciously determined to keep my senses open. Like maybe there'll be a song or a story on the radio or a shaft of light coming through the trees. And within seconds of thinking this, I got stuck behind a school bus. A bus that I knew would be making at least 10 stops along this stretch of road. And yet, as I waited, I noticed this border collie sitting at full attention at the top of this long driveway. And the moment his teenage human stepped off this bus, the dog bounded down the drive and circled the boy in this irrepressible delight. And this teenager, who had come off the bus with his head down and hair in his face, broke out into this really beautiful grin. And that was it. The goodness of a dog, this bond of belonging between a boy and his pup, and that big question, like, why do dogs make us feel so good? And lucky you, because I actually have a slice of the answer to that question. And this is a very short passage from my book, Raising Awe Seekers. In an interview with NPR, Nancy Gee, the director of the Center for Human-Animal Interaction at Virginia Commonwealth University, noted that interacting with dogs, even strangers' dogs, can affect body chemistry. After spending a few minutes with a dog, most people experience a reduction in the stress hormone cortisol and an uptick in the feel-good hormone oxytocin. Gee said, quote, "I think it's safe to say that animals are beneficial to our mental and physical health." But why? Megan Mueller, an associate professor of veterinary medicine at Tufts University, told NPR that dogs prompt us to experience the world more like they do. Quote, "Animals, and dogs in particular, live in the moment. They're experiencing their environment with wonder and awe all the time, and they're not bringing up what happened to them earlier in the day or what they're thinking about in the future. They're there right now," unquote. Watching that brief interaction between a dog and his kid brought me briefly out of the blah and into the wow. And I'm going to take that feeling every day, even if it's only for 15 seconds. Before I go, I'm just going to share with you a few entries from my Wonder Diary this week. These are tiny entries about something that caught my attention, gave me goosebumps, brought tears to my eyes, or just made me say, wow. You can read all of these each week on my Substack. Just search for Raising Awe Seekers. Day 37. A beautiful family friend died today. She was 95, and I remember when at nearly age 80, she spotted our family across the beach and ran full throttle to greet us with a hand on top of her head to keep her sun hat from blowing away. I want to age like that. Day 38. I brought Humford the stuffed octopus with me on a school visit today. This is my daughter's Stuffy. At the end of my presentation, a kindergartner sidled up and said, "Can Humford give me a hug?" "With 8 arms?" "Yeah," I said. "He can give you a quadruple hug." Day 39. My 13-year-old had a leading role in the play Arsenic and Old Lace, and at the end of the show, the director said, quote, "Our actors have been working on a comedy, but they take the world seriously. We donate 100% of ticket sales to charity, and I let them pick. They picked organizations that help immigrants and LGBTQ plus teens." Day 40. Since taking up embroidery, I have slowly been tuning in to the many ways fiber arts have been used by women to preserve culture, nurture others, build community, and engage politically. The ancient Greeks imagine fate as 3 spinners. We still use the phrase fabric of society to describe what binds us. And I'm wondering why I didn't tap into this art sooner, but I am so glad that it has found me now. That's it for this week. I'm Deborah Farmer Chris, and if you are enjoying this podcast, consider subscribing, rating, or sharing with a friend. Till next time.